Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and our latest batch of listener questions. On this episode, we're asking what has happened to Mo Salah. We're asking if ACL injuries hit different for soccer players rather than legendary Winter Olympians. We're bringing back the old Super League idea and much, much more. My name is Ryan Bailey. Joining me today to answer lots of your questions, as always, hello, Taylor Rockwell.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. You're always excited to discuss the Super League, yes?
Yes.
Your favorite topic, the commercialization of sport and taking clubs away from their hometowns and their roots and moving them into just kind of like a soulless void, like, say, in Milton Keynes?
Yes. Modern soccer, great. Love it.
Yeah.
Good.
Woo.
Words. Yeah. We're going to tackle this later, but am I right in thinking that the original Super League only has one team who are still part of the association, and that is Real Madrid?
Barcelona pulled out on Monday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, They do say Real Madrid are in a league of their own, so...
Literally.
I guess that's literally true now.
Yeah. Wow. There we go. Graham Ruthven, how are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to a chat about ACLs today, because I showed Taylor my legs earlier in the week, and I can't... Yeah, that happened, Joe. You missed that. I can't bend my legs very well. My hamstrings don't work. Well, I thought it was my hamstrings, and now I'm thinking... Did I Lindsay Vonn myself at some point in the past? And that's the reason.
Graham, have you tried stretching?
No, actually. Should try that first, actually.
Yeah. Give that a go. But if you want to see more of Graham's legs, you have to go on Graham Fans, of course, to get a subscription there.
It's not pretty. I saw a Kevin Durant advert, which it was quite a funny joke from the Super Bowl where it went up his legs. It just kept on going. It was like the skinniest legs. Did anyone see that from the Super Bowl?
It's hard to look at, actually.
Yeah, that's my legs. No tie.
Great. Joe Larry, how are you and your legs?
I think pretty normal. I'm dealing with what I would consider as my first old person kind of injury, where my right knee is just not really working super great. Like jumping hurts. Running is mostly fine, but running fast is not great. I don't know what the deal is. I really don't. But I'm working it out. And I think this is just what happens when your body gets old. It just stops working, and you have to
Joe, how old are you
yell
now?
at it
Like
to submission.
48?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate this.
Nah, I think you need some
Joe
perspective.
isn't. There's no chance Joe is even close to old enough to be what I would consider like when I first started to feel physically in decline.
When was that, Taylor? Genuinely, I'm actually
33
curious.
years old.
33. All right. Well, hopefully
33
I've
is
got
my
some time
first
ahead.
2-day hangover on like a not obscene like amount of drinking. It was just like a normal like birthday celebration, and then I was still hungover 2 days later and thought, this is not good. I'm not enjoying this at all. And that's how it's been.
Joe, if you'd like a glimpse into the future, I'm 42. I had 3 drinks during the Super Bowl, and I woke up hungover on Monday.
Wow.
Great times. I mean, they
were all just like full pint glasses of
Yeah, I was going to
vodka,
say,
to be
pint
fair.
of absinthe probably didn't help.
It was just ethanol.
Ryan, if you started day drinking like you did that one time, well, not probably more than once, one time recently, would it help? Like if you just start earlier, surely that's going to help you Monday morning. You should have started even earlier in the morning.
I didn't feel that bad on the Sunday after that snowed-in day, because if you start early, that's the...
You're just one strategic tweak away from really nailing it, I think. You're like almost there.
There we are. We've nearly perfected it. We're 4 decades in, Joe, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Very good. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, by the way, is the best way to support this here endeavor. If you'd like to do so, you'll get bonus episodes, bonus video content, and access to our Discord, where you can ask a listener question. And also, as I mentioned there, bonus episodes, including a bonus listener question this week from our good friend Texas Rusia, who's asking a nice
Never gets old.
kind of a would you rather about what's the best way to help soccer grow in the US. More on that on our bonus feed. It's a good old question, as are the ones we're going to talk about on this here feed, starting right now with Jameson, who submitted this one on our Discord. What happened to Mo Salah? He was on the brink of possibly the greatest individual season in the Premier League, and then it just stopped, says Jameson. His drop-off since spring 2025 has been significant. Did something change in the way Liverpool were playing, or is age just catching up to him? Graham, why might 33-year-old, soon-to-be 34-year-old Mo Salah be less effective than he was before?
Yeah, he's so old. 34 in the summer.
Think of his knees.
I can't imagine.
Imagine what his hangovers are like. My goodness.
Mo Salah is younger than me.
I'm going to guess Mo Salah has never been hungover. Just to guess.
Seems like a reasonable assessment.
Probably not. Yeah, and not just because I've seen his Instagram page, and that guy is ripped. There's other reasons as well, but I think there's probably a few things here to explain Salah's drop off. The most obvious one is age. Like, he's 33 now, he'll be 34 in the summer, and his game is quite an explosive game, right? So I don't think it's too surprising that there has been a drop off in a macro sense. What has been surprising is, as Jameson says, the cliff edge has been so sharp. And it was pretty much as soon as Salah signed that new contract that he completely lost his form. So that's maybe the first thing. There's maybe a question of motivation. I do think it's difficult to artificially recreate that if you have some resentment towards the club or you're unhappy about your situation, which it seems Salah has been at times this season. And I do also think there's some footballing reasons, one of which is Trent Alexander-Arnold not being a Liverpool player anymore. He was such a important supply line into Salah down that right side. We saw over a number of seasons the two of them would dovetail. One would go wide, one would come inside, and vice versa. They were on the same wavelength. And obviously Alexander-Arnold isn't there anymore. But not only that, Liverpool have kind of chopped and changed through three different right-backs this season. It's been Conor Bradley, it's been Jeremy Frimpong, and it's been Dominic Szoboszlai. And they are all very different players. They all play that position very differently. So there's been no real chance to build up a relationship, build up any kind of consistency. And then the other thing is, it feels like with Ekitike and Florian Wirtz coming into this team in the summer window, it just feels like more of their focus, more of their attacking plays kind of been funneled into an area away from Mohamed Salah. So it doesn't feel like he's involved. It feels like he's more of a peripheral figure. And there was always that kind of separation with Mohamed Salah. He always kind of had that space. They designed it. But it now feels like he's more of an afterthought in this Liverpool team than the focus of their attacking purpose. There is also, I'll hold my hands up, there is an element, I'm trying to put forward some explanations here or reasons. There is a big element here that is unexplainable, because even when Salah has got into good positions this season, that final ball's been lacking, or a lot of the time he'll make the wrong decision, he'll overplay it. In the past he would have taken a shot, he's played one extra pass, or the other way round, like he's taken the shot on and he's ballooned it over the bar. So that's a little bit more difficult to quantify, but there's probably a few things here that have fed into this idea that we are probably watching the last season that Salah will play as a Liverpool player.
Taylor, feel that way too?
I mean, I think to Graham's final points there, I think, at the level we've come to expect from him, and that is a key part of this, I think, because Graham's already gone over the age. He's been a pro for 15 years. He's played probably around 500 club matches at this point. That's a bit of wear and tear, especially in a system like Liverpool's more recently that has prioritized pressing and intensity and fast breaks and the like. I do think there have been some adjustments in the way Slot has played, including formation. It's been at times more of a 4-2-3-1 than the 4-3-3 that I think Salah thrives in. Maybe fewer fast breaks and more of an emphasis on possession at times, slower build-up. I'm not sure that suits him either. But I do think there is a vibes component here that you can kind of look at the Ekitike signing and Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak. And is Salah the man, the most important player for this team? Certainly not at this point. And I think those incomings are part of that. I remember last year we had the conversation about if you're keeping one of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk, and Mohamed Salah, who are you keeping?
Yeah.
And it was a conversation, right? And now
I don't think my take aged well on that one.
I can't remember what I said.
I think it was sell one in January, sell one in the summer, keep one long term. But that wouldn't even be a question at this point. And so I think on some level, if you are a player who used to be like front and center in the billing and in the promotional materials, and now maybe you are part of a larger group with other bigger names around you, that has to impact the way you're playing and just the general confidence you have. We still see moments from him. He has the crazy Travella almost assist against Manchester City that
was good.
Just reminded us all that he still has sublime skill and ability, maybe just less of that explosiveness. And so I think there's a chance that he is still a key kind of squad member for Liverpool. The question then becomes, is that what he wants long term? I don't really know.
Wow, I just dug up this. This was from December of 2024. And the question that Taylor's referencing is, for Liverpool's three big unresolved contracts, take ourselves back to this timeline, Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, you must choose one to re-sign, one to sell in January, and one to let walk away on a free. I sold Salah in January. Go me. I let Van Dijk leave on a free at the end of the season. Not 100% sure if that was the right thing to do or not. And I re-signed Alexander-Arnold. I couldn't remember. I thought I would have kept Salah, but I guess not. I guess I did buy into the age drop-off, which has been a real thing. And I think all of the reasons that you guys tossed out, I agree with. I think there is something... there's something vibesy about this, and it seems like he's not content, and probably when you're not happy, you're not playing your best. I think there's something to be said for that. I think there's something to be said for Liverpool are playing sort of differently now than they were before. Even beyond just the manager stuff, the personnel stuff matters a lot. And Graham, I think you referenced sort of the right-back carousel that we've seen so far. I think that probably makes Salah's life a little bit more difficult compared to having this ironclad chemistry with Alexander-Arnold, where they know exactly where the other person's going to be when they wake up in the morning, right? I mean, that's just, I think that's what Liverpool had before, and they don't have it anymore. One thing that you guys didn't mention, and I ripped this straight from, I don't know if you guys ever watch any Adam Cleary videos. He's a YouTube analyst. He's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. If you haven't watched his stuff, you should. It's really, really good. He was breaking down sort of the question of, are Liverpool better without Salah? And this is from a couple of months ago. And one of the things he raised in that video is the profile of the players around Salah is impacting his game in a tangible way, not just in a, oh, well, I'm no longer the man kind of way, Taylor, like you were talking about. Though I think there could be something to that. I don't deny that at all. But think about it this way. Last year, we saw a lot of Dominic Szoboszlai playing through the middle. And we've seen that a lot this year as well, though he's been deeper at times. And we've seen Florian Wirtz play in the number 10 role for Liverpool. Now, what does Florian Wirtz want when he's playing the number 10 role? He wants the ball, right? That's what made him so good at Bayer Leverkusen. That's why he's here, is to have the ball. What was Szoboszlai doing when he was playing a little bit more advanced as an attacking midfielder? He was making the unselfish runs to create space for Mohamed Salah. And Adam Cleary showed like 3 or 4 clips from last season of Szoboszlai as the number 10, Salah on the right, Salah on the ball. Szoboszlai makes this run from inside to outside. He makes this diagonal run almost towards a corner flag to take defenders away from Salah so Salah can cut inside on his left foot and make magic happen. Then he showed a clip of Wirtz in the exact same position, Salah on the ball in the exact same spot. So the only thing that's changed is it's Wirtz in for Szoboszlai. And Wirtz doesn't make the run. Wirtz wants the ball. He moves in a way that opens himself up to receiving. And that's fine for Liverpool if they can figure out how to make all that work. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But as it relates to Mo Salah, his life is harder now, straight up, than his life was when it was a different profile of center mid in that spot, because they're not catering to his game anymore. So that was the point that really I thought stood out to me from that video. And that's maybe just to elaborate on some things that you guys have already said. But so many things are different for Liverpool. Mohamed Salah is a year older. He seems less content. He's gotten the contract. All these things have happened. And I think probably when you smush them all together, you get a really, really steep drop-off.
Very good. Thank you very much, Joe. Just for the tape, on my notes, Mo Salah has been corrected to Mo Salad, which feels like my Google Docs is trying to instruct me on a better diet.
Right, take a
rather than
note.
anything else.
Yeah.
There we go. Jameson, thank you very much indeed for your question. We take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a lot of talk about ACLs and much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our listener questions. John P. has been in touch with this one. Has anyone made a transition to a new team look easier than Semenyo? He looks like a player that's been embedded in the Man City system for so long and hasn't missed a beat. Are there any other new transfers this season that have looked so comfortable as quickly as Semenyo at City? Taylor, this is a great question. Can I get away with saying Donnarumma as well?
You may. You can get away with whatever you want because you read the question correctly and I did not, because I missed the this season aspect
I
of
did
this
that
question.
first, and then
I went
it.
all time.
Did you put Igor Thiago in your list as well?
I had Bruno Fernandes
That's the right
and
answer,
Papi
historically.
Cisse as the two most impactful January signings. Cisse scoring 13 goals in 14 games for Newcastle, including goal of the season, Trevella Bender versus Chelsea. I just want to mention that because it's a ridiculous goal and people haven't seen it. It's one of the best Trevellas of all time. So I think those are two of the best that I can remember, I guess, in recent memory. There's a good argument for Semenyo because we always talk about how hard it is to kind of find your way into a Pep team, how it usually takes like 6 months to kind of get up to speed and figure out what's being asked of you and when it's being asked. I still think sometimes Semenyo makes decisions that seem to completely flummox his teammates and make them very, very frustrated. So I do wonder if some of this is like a lack of other options and needing to just kind of get him in there and have him provide a bit of variety in the attack. But he has still shown very, very well and been very, very consistent. Does seem to have hit the ground running. Doesn't seem to have been overawed by the occasion and seems to have come in with the right mentality of like, I belong here. I have a point to prove. I should be starting versus I've moved to a huge club. I hope I can hold on. I hope I can find a way to get into it. And so I think in that way, it's been much more impactful than I expected it to be.
Very good. Joe, your thoughts on any other players who've settled as well as Semenyo at City?
I'm not still 100% sold on Semenyo at City. I want to be clear about that. I think he's a good player. I'm just not exactly sure what the best version of City looks like at this point, and I'm not exactly sure where or if Semenyo fits into that. He's a good player, like I said, and he is a dangerous attacker in the Premier League. So he is obviously very, very, very good. I just am not totally sure that he is quite the best fit for them. So yes, he's produced some, but I just wanted to put that pin there to be able to come back to at some point as we get further deeper into the season. I was thinking about Marmoush, who did the same thing last season at Manchester City. I know that does not fit within the scope of the question, but he came in the January window and looked amazing after his trip over from Frankfurt. Scored 7 goals in 1,200 Premier League minutes, then just kind of falls off the face of the planet. Injuries, and now is sort of starting to work his way back a little bit. I think it's hard to find January window transfers. Number one, there aren't very many of them, certainly not many of this profile, that really fit from this year. And those are the ones that are really impressive to me because, yeah, you want first-year players to fit regardless, but it's probably harder to come in January without a preseason than it is to come in over the summer with a preseason. So I think Semenyo does deserve some real credit for that, and City deserves some credit for positioning him to produce a little bit. I was thinking Ekitike from this year. I mean, he's been really, really productive, and it doesn't seem like he's missed a beat even as Liverpool have struggled. And I think their big mission, frankly, Liverpool needs to be, how can we platform Hugo Ekitike to be the best version of himself? I think that is going to go a long ways for Liverpool. I was also thinking about Luis Diaz at Bayern, just in terms of hitting the ground running. Dude had 3 goals and 2 assists in his first 3 Bundesliga games. He's got 13 and 9 on the season so far. He's amazing. It's pretty easy to be amazing at Bayern if you're already a really good player. But he's another one that certainly hit the ground running. I think for these elite, truly, truly elite players, they can put up numbers almost anywhere, and we're seeing that a little bit here.
Yeah, those are good shouts, Joe. Graham, for the slightly less elite tier, could we point to a few Sunderland players, maybe Mr. Brobby, for example?
Well, the other Sunderland player I was going to point to was Granit Xhaka. He was on my list, who I think just very quickly Sunderland moulded themselves around him from pretty much the first game of the season. So he was on my list. Ekitike, I think, for this season is probably the answer. Scored 5 goals in his first 10 games. The biggest compliment I can pay Ekitike is Liverpool broke the Premier League transfer record to sign the striker that was considered the second best striker in the league. And the only reason people talk about Isak now is, 1, because of his injury, and 2, how is he going to fit into this Liverpool team alongside Hugo Ekitike? So Ekitike has just all of a sudden become Liverpool's main man in the forward line. Another kind of nomination, I know attacking players are more fun to talk about than goalkeepers, but I think Seny Lamens deserves a mention for basically like completely silencing that debate around the Manchester United goalkeeper position. Ryan, I think you and I did his debut. I think it was just you and I that were on that weekend review show, and we were just like, yep, this guy is competent. He still hasn't had a game where he's properly like stood on his head, but he is just like the Manchester United goalkeeper now in a way that wasn't the case previously with all the debate around Onana and Bayern and remember all that stuff that rumbled on for a while. Oh, wow. But historically, the answer is Bruno Fernandes. Just to touch on him for a second, because I often think, even though he's Manchester United captain, and I think sometimes people still underrate Bruno Fernandes.
Correct.
He's legitimately one of the best players in the world. Like, he immediately came into that Manchester United team. They did not lose another game until the end of the season. He registered 8 goals and 7 assists in his first 14 Premier League matches. He won Manchester United's Player of the Season, which, I mean, probably says something about the rest of their team. But he signed on the 29th of January that season. And I remember, Taylor, you probably remember this as well, all the discussion with Fernandes was, he's going to drop off and he's overperforming his underlying statistics. He never has. This season, has anyone seen...
Shut up, nerd.
Yeah, nerd. Has anyone seen the numbers of chances created this season in the Premier League? Bruno Fernandes is on 82, and number 2 is Florian Wirtz on something like 45. And he missed 6 games of the season, Bruno Fernandes. And he played in a Ruben Amorim team. I think he's one of the best signings of the Premier League era. And I think historically he is the answer to this question. Nobody has slotted into a team better than him.
We've missed the obvious answer for this question as well. It's Big Pat Agyeman going to Derby County, getting a goal involvement roughly every other game. That's pretty good, I'd say.
I mean, it actually is pretty good, and it does speak well of him. He just wasn't someone who immediately jumped to mind for me. But it's not a bad shout, right?
It is, indeed. There you go. John P., thank you very much indeed for your question. We go now to Alaska Footy. Here we go. After watching 41-year-old Lindsey Vonn max out at 121 kilometres an hour in her downhill ski race with a torn ACL, I have to ask, what makes an ACL injury so much more detrimental to footballers than other athletes like skiers? Is it the intensity of a 90-minute match, specific physical moments they need to make, or something else? Now, as a production note, Alaska Footy sent this question in about Lindsey Vonn maxing out at 121 kilometres an hour.
Did something happen?
They sent the question on
medalled?
Saturday.
She won gold.
On Sunday, Lindsey Vonn's
face planting.
Winter Olympics somewhat changed, shall we say.
Yeah.
So, but the question still very much stands because obviously...
does it? I think there's an argument that, like, should she have been participating with a torn ACL? I'm not even getting into, like, she took someone else's spot. She didn't. She qualified. But it is still a question of, like, was that a great decision? And it does inform my answer a little bit. Sorry for jumping into it. But, like, my assumption is that a lot of it has to do with cutting and that your ACL is about lateral movement. It's controlling lateral movement so you remain stabilized. And in skiing, there is certainly lateral movement as you're shifting in the slalom and the like, but not nearly as much as you're getting in soccer and to some extent American football with like the cutting and having to change direction and change like weight very, very, very quickly. And so I think that is really it. It's the unpredictability of motion in soccer because if you're dribbling, you're even if you're in control, you're always slightly out of control when you're dribbling. Combined with the physicality of the sport and getting knocked around when you kind of are unprotected is the wrong word, but there are moments when you are going to get hit or there's going to be contact that you don't see coming. And then on top of that, it's the uncertainty of the pitch conditions themselves. When I tore my ACL, it was on a muddy pitch, and my body went one way and my foot stayed stuck in the mud and stayed where it was. And so I think there's just more unpredictable factors with soccer combined with the physicality, combined with just the natural need to cut and plant that I think is going to be an issue. And then on top of that, I think there is just general wear and tear. When I did mine, I have a feeling that I probably started to do mine months before because I would get like pain in my knee and then it would go away a couple minutes later and I'd think like, maybe it was just like a weird little thing. Maybe it was just a little bit of discomfort. And then slowly it didn't go away. And then eventually it really didn't go away.
Yeah, I think the movement point there, Taylor, is key, like soccer movements and skiing movements. And by the way, I know nothing about skiing. I went skiing once and decided I found snowboarding easier and have never skied again. Not that I do a lot of snowboarding, but whenever I've been up on a mountain, it's been on a snowboard. Yeah, it seems like the movement is a little bit more conducive to, I guess, sort of like planting your foot in position. Like you can have the big boot as well that locks in your ankle, and you can, I guess, in the ski suit have like a lot more strapping than like a soccer player can. I was also reading an article on The Athletic about how Vonn herself was a little bit of an exceptional case in that her swelling wasn't quite as bad as they otherwise might have imagined, and so that made it possible. And also, I believe I was reading that like downhill skiers have giant quads that make it kind of made it possible as well. I think this question still applies. Like I know obviously this didn't go well for Lindsey Vonn to say the least, but there is a difference between what she did in being able to go down a mountain in an Olympic competition. And like a soccer player just wouldn't even make it onto the field with like a ruptured ACL. So I still think this does apply, despite the fact, didn't go well.
Yeah, and I think Vonn has described her event itself as being sort of less like those dynamic movements that Taylor spoke about. Like slalom would have that, but her event tends not to. I think that was a justification for being able to compete for Vonn. And as I always think about, do you remember Michael Owen? Was it a World Cup where he I can't remember the game it was, where he sort of turned. And it was fairly innocuous looking, and he did his ACL, and it was a heartbreaker. It didn't even seem like it was. It was just because it was a very dynamic movement he made, rather than any kind of contact. But yeah, it can happen. Joe, anything to add here?
First of all, Graham, are you drinking out of a sunscreen bottle? This probably doesn't move the needle for audio listeners. Can you just pop that up on the screen real quick?
This is a metal water.
All right,
we've had this
it looked like a
before.
bottle of sunscreen to me. It's not, listeners. Don't worry. It's just a weird looking water
rained
bottle.
every day all year, Joe. There's no reason for me to have a bottle of sunscreen.
All right, good call. Just had to be sure. I mean, I think about Ricky Puig tearing his ACL and finishing the game, right, for the LA Galaxy in the playoffs. Now that would be not this past season, but the year before. you can still move on ACLs. You can still do things you can move on torn ACLs. You can still do things on torn ACLs. Tailored to your original assessment, whether it's a good idea to do those things is a different question. Lindsey Vonn has to worry about Lindsey Vonn. She is the one in charge of Lindsey Vonn. Ricky Puig is really not the one in charge of Ricky Puig with the LA Galaxy, or you can apply that same instance to any player for any team. The teams have invested in those players, and they have to try to ensure the long-term ability for those players to continue to play at a high level. And it's dangerous when you take away the ACL. It's a stabilizer in the knee, and all of a sudden your other leg knee stuff is rattling around in there. You can have some problems that come from that stuff. So it's not like you can't move when you tear your ACL. You can, but you're at further risk of doing more damage, and you are not able to function quite as you're meant to function. Yeah. If you're Lindsey Vonn, you can decide, I'm going to race anyway. If you're Ricky Puig, you really can't decide that you're going to play an MLS Cup. So I think there is a difference there in the context of the sports themselves, of who all is involved in decisions like this about whether you're going to play or not. And then, of course, all the things that you guys have said, I think, still apply.
I really don't know how much cutting you can do with a torn ACL. Like, I'm guessing you can do some, but I think you are then much less stable, much more out of control. When I did mine, my doctor told me that he had a torn ACL for years, and he just didn't have time to deal with it, so he just made sure to always jog in one direction and try to limit lateral movement in that way as much as he could. Feels risky to me. And I think that speaks to the degree of the tear, or the grade of the tear, because I think if you've partially torn your ACL, you can keep playing. It's probably going to be a larger problem long term, but there is at least still some ligament intact. I think when you fully tear it, my guess would be that you also tear other things that can then make it more severe and harder to deal with. To Graham's point about Vonn's swelling, I'm guessing she didn't have like really bad tears elsewhere, so there wasn't as much other damage to have to deal with at the same time. So I think those are also parts of it as well, that usually in soccer I feel like you're tearing your ACL and your MCL, or your ACL and your MCL and your meniscus, or some combination thereof.
While we on Lindsey Vonn, while we can probably agree with hindsight that it was a bad idea for her to compete, I do have a level of respect for the mettle she showed to do it. And particularly, there was on social media, I think it was Stu Holden, who would know about this kind of thing, was commenting on a video of her squatting in training. I was thinking, even to just do that when you know you've just done your ACL, I think it takes a certain mentality, which I kind of respect, that she's sort of.
I hugely respect that she gave it a go. Like, the other thing is, and again, I know almost nothing about skiing, and I watch Lindsey Vonn at the Winter Olympics every 4 years, and that's it. So I don't really have any other exposure to her. But she came back for these Olympics, right? This was like her final attempt. Yeah. Like, she's 41 now, and this. So, I mean, I guess the concern now is her quality of life. Like, she's going to be okay to live her life after this. But if this is like her last competition, then I guess that also frees you up to have like a Hail Mary and really go for it.
I mostly fully agree with you both. There is just a small bit of like, I think it's The Other Guys, is the Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell movie, where it like opens with Sam Jackson and The Rock jumping off the roof of a building and being like, just aim for the bushes. And then they both, I believe, die from jumping off the roof of a building. A little bit of shades of that, of like, I kind of wish she had just finished and maybe not medaled. And it was sort of like, she got through, credit to her, but it didn't. It feels a little bit like it went the way you would think a person trying to ski very quickly with no ACL might go. And I feel very bad for her, but also don't begrudge her wanting to give it one last try.
Yeah. Counterpoint, Taylor. She's a peacock, Chief. You got to let her fly.
Valid. Very valid.
When are we doing desk pops?
Thank you very much, Alaska Footy, for your question. One more quick break from us. When we come back,
I was going to do a bit, but we got to go to break. Oh, what a shame! I was gonna do it too, guys. I was. Sorry, Ryan, you were saying about break?
Yeah, we'll do it now. Bye. Total Soccer Show. Welcome back to our listener questions. Bry Guy has been in touch with this one on our Discord. Which clubs should form a Super League to keep pace with the Premier League? Would that Super League be able to draw the revenue to actually compete with the Premier League's top teams for talent and European championships? Graham, the answer is none of the teams should form a Super League. Shall we move on?
I mean, that is the right answer. But if we're making the commercial argument for this, I mean, I never understood why the Premier League teams signed up for the Super League when it was going to kill their golden goose. I think for the non-Premier League teams, the commercial argument is actually quite strong because they're just getting left behind by the Premier League. But I guess my 20 teams. I'm just going to give you 20 teams. I came up with a league here.
This guy's naming teams. Let's do it.
Yep, that's it.
Before you do, Graham, can I jump in and say I was watching a TV show where someone stole 5 million and they were given the opportunity to get 20 million and they greedily went for the 20 million and lost both. That's what the Premier League teams did, didn't they?
They wanted both, right? They wanted the bigger prize. Yeah, but that bigger prize is only an advantage if the other teams also don't have that bigger prize, right? Like the reason they've got that advantage, the reason 5 of the 8 teams that went through to the whatever it is, the last 16 of the Champions League were English, is because the other teams don't have that money. So you lose that advantage if everyone else is getting the Super League money. So I just never fully understood that. Like it was, I guess it was just FOMO. They just didn't want to miss out on something. But my 20 teams.
Graham, can I just say, there's never been a greater insight into the present format of the Champions League than you saying 5 of the 8 teams went into the final 16. And I understood exactly what you meant.
Yeah,
I didn't even pick that up. Go on, Graham.
that's right, isn't it? I'm trying to work out the format.
I think they skip the knockout round or whatever it is, but yeah, they go straight.
No, they go into the
16.
last 16, and then the other 8 teams come
Yeah.
from the last 24,
Yeah,
right? And they make up
Which is just a
16.
weird
So,
way
I
of
was
saying
right.
like they get a first round bye. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
anyway.
right.
Yeah.
So my 20 teams are...
Joe, can you interrupt him now so he doesn't get these teams out?
Yeah,
please?
Graham, I have 17 teams down. I don't know who my last 3 should be, so I'm really curious. And I would love to hear your teams if you would just hurry up and say them. We've all been
Okay,
waiting for you to
I'm
say your
trying.
teams, but I'm really
Graham,
curious
shut up
to
for a
see
second. I've
if
got
my
16
3
teams, and I
unknown teams are
think
going to be
maybe
on
we
your
should
list.
figure it out.
Could be worth
Okay,
thinking.
so I'm going to start with the biggest teams, Celtic and Rangers. They are in there. No, I'm going to start
maybe-
with Spain. 3 teams from Spain, Atleti, Barcelona, Real Madrid. Then from Italy, I've got the 2 Milan teams, so AC and Inter. I've got Juventus, Napoli and Roma. Sorry, Lazio, you didn't make the cut. Germany, I've got Bayern Munich and Dortmund. France, I've got PSG and Marseille. Netherlands, I've got Ajax, Feyenoord and PSV. Portugal, I've got Benfica, Porto and Sporting. And then I do have Celtic and Rangers for Scotland to come up with 20 teams. There's a little bit of awkwardness there. Ideally, I would have Lazio in there to get like the Rome derby. I would maybe have another German and a French team. I could get 24 teams. We could go full Champo with this format. But to have equilibrium with the Premier League, I went with 20, and those are my 20 teams.
It's a good
So
shot.
we've got 3 Dutch teams and 2 Scottish teams. So we're, with all due respect, have we established the hierarchy of this league?
In what sense?
We've got the bottom 5 there, right?
All right, right now, yeah. I mean, Celtic Rangers are getting relegated out of the Super League pronto. But I've gone for like size of clubs, right, and statures of clubs, which I know is like fluid and open for debate. But I think those 20 cover a lot of bases.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's a good shout. Graham, I had Leipzig and Leverkusen in over... I didn't have all the teams you said, basically over some of the Dutch and some of the Scottish that you had. But basically, we have the same list. I think this would be able to compete with the Premier League, right? I mean, the thing that sort of holds me back a little bit, I suppose, and this is me as an English speaker, I do think a Premier League advantage is that it's an English language league. And English is a hugely popular language in the Western world. And I do wonder if you lose a little bit of something in that equation. But these are some of the biggest clubs in the world. I mean, there are more big clubs in the league, Graham, that you've just read out. However you want to define that. By most definitions, I would think. There are more big clubs in the league you've just read out than there are in the Premier League. So I would think that this league would be a commercial behemoth that actually could rival England's top flight. The crazy thing is we have to smush 18 different leagues together in order to actually do that, which speaks to how well the Premier League has gone about everything and how poorly some of their peers have.
Did you have Ligue 1 teams in there, Graham? Just from my memory.
Yeah,
Marseille
I had
and PSG.
PSG and Marseille. Like, if we were doing 24, I'd have Lyon in there as well. Like, it is a little bit awkward that Scotland have got the same number of teams as Germany and France, but I can't have Celtic without Rangers. I can't have Rangers without Celtic, and I do feel like there's a legitimate case for them to be included in this. So, yeah.
Rangers have a surprisingly high coefficient ranking too, as I recall, from answering this question and scrolling through it. Not like very high, but high enough that it's not that ridiculous of a shout.
Well,
they're 36th behind Bodo Glimt.
I think they're that's entirely due to their Europa League final points are still hanging on for dear life, and they're about to drop off. So
it's also true that if something like this were to exist, which my honest answer to this is we shouldn't do this, like Ryan said. I think that would be. Parts of it would be great spectacle. I think we already get enough of this with the Champions League, which is a great idea for a competition. We should just kind of let things be as they are. And part of the reason for that is, if you think about Rangers in this, that they might be the worst team that was mentioned to fit in this bucket. I mean, they're at least in the conversation. they would be able to improve their squad. The thinking would be through the revenue that would come from this sort of thing. So all of a sudden, Rangers and how we think about Rangers would change, which doesn't just matter to Rangers. It also matters to the rest of Scottish football, to sort of dive back into why I hope this never happens. Because all of a sudden, there's already this seemingly insurmountable, or is it? Maybe not this season.
I should have had Hearts. It should have been 3. There should have been 3 Scottish teams in here.
Embarrassing that Graham put Feyenoord in over Hearts. That is actually making me sick, and I feel like Graham needs a penalty for that. But Rangers would change, right? They would get better, and the gulf would grow even larger between the top of Scotland, if the league still exists, which is a whole separate problem. If you take the biggest clubs out of these leagues, there are knock-on effects to that as well. No matter what you do, you're increasing the gap between the best and everybody else, and the gap is already large. And I think doing something like this would fundamentally change the sport in a very, very real way in all of these countries. And that feels like something that I don't really want, if I'm being honest.
I agree with that sentiment. I agree with all the reasons why this shouldn't happen. I do have a different approach to my Super League league. I only have 16 teams. But I thought about it more as like, if you're not going to throw in the juggernauts of the Premier League, are you able to pull in some of the other huge teams that you would assume to be in the Super League? And I think there are 3, maybe 4 that you lose if the Premier League isn't involved. I think Bayern isn't involved regardless. They weren't involved in the Super League. They, I believe, avoided committing in any way and said they wouldn't join. And then I think you lose Real Madrid and Barcelona. I did not have them in mind because I feel like they are, with no Premier League involvement, maybe they are inclined to be like, we're not merging with a bunch of other teams to then try to compete with England. We're still making plenty of money. We can still dominate our respective leagues. We'll stay. And maybe Atleti does the same. So mine was Ajax, and then I did end up adding PSV later. Sporting Club de Portugal, Porto, Benfica, PSG, Juve, Milan, Inter, Napoli, Dortmund, Celtic, Leverkusen, and then, because it's only 16, I thought about other like teams that do well, but maybe aren't ever going to win their league. And I think if you're my upstart Super League, you try to poach Villa, Newcastle, and West Ham. So you have a team in London who can obviously make a bunch of money. It allows them to avoid relegation. But then, to Joe's point about Rangers, you would assume that they start having a lot more money from the Super League. They stabilize, and they're quite strong. But those are 3 teams that maybe aren't ever going to, or at least in the near future, like truly be seen as like Premier League contenders or contenders for the title. Even Villa this season, I feel like that was still a hard sell. But if you move them into the super-ish league, maybe they can compete and find some success there and certainly make some money.
Does that, Taylor, as a genuine question, I think your approach is reasonable. Does that move the needle for you? Like, if the goal of the Super League is to suddenly become the most attractive soccer property in the world, does what you've built, even if it might be more realistic than what Graham and I built, and I think it probably is, does that do it for you?
No. Certainly
Okay.
not. Because you're still ultimately like, does this do it for you? Are we competing? And then if any big Premier League team joined, they'd be like, well, bye Celtic. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like anybody would get booted for one of those clubs. And so in that way, you still have Premier League superiority.
I mean, that's always the counterpoint to the North Atlantic League gets mooted every like 5 or 6 years, which would be Scotland, Belgium, Netherlands, like Norway, I guess. And then you get to the end of the process and people go, okay, is this better than what we have? And the answer is not meaningfully, not enough to actually go through with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't like this conversation. Just going to say it.
I instinctively thought of a European Super League, but now I'm thinking of like a global Super League where you have the two, you have Boca and River, you have like Flamengo, Sao Paulo.
Stop giving
couple MLS
ideas.
teams.
What if we played at Graham in
Miami.
the summer and we sort of did it in like a tournament style? Like
yeah.
Think about it as like a World Cup style tournament. We could I don't know what we would call it.
Team World Cup.
Yes, I like that. And a big shield as a trophy, and we get someone to sign it twice on the back, and there's a key that opens it for a reason.
We should just have Gianni sign it. I think that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try that.
Wonder what the trophy would look like and who would present it. Let's
Where
think
it would
about
live.
Should we also toy around with the Peace Prize idea while we're coming up with new things? Soccer needs that, right? Soccer.
We should
Peace Prize?
establish a Total Soccer Show Peace Prize.
We definitely should.
Wow, Taylor just stole my idea. That's crazy.
And the winner this year, Christian Romero. Congratulations. Very good. Bry Guy, thank you very much indeed for your question. One more for this episode from MT Bran, who says, having a podcast about soccer presupposes you know a fair amount about soccer. Whew, we can debate whether that's true or not. Oh boy! But what is most surprising, or what is the most surprising or interesting thing you've learned about soccer while researching for a show? Gentlemen, try and avoid the strays you just caught in that question there.
I was gonna say MT brand's my favorite kind of brand. I think Raisin brand's trash. So MT brand, it's better by a lot.
SK brand
Don't know what that is.
club.
Are these Norwegian
Nice.
teams or?
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Graham's on the way.
Should I go? I've got some things.
Good.
I got
Good,
some
John.
interesting things. So my strategy for this, because I forget everything I learn immediately. So I think MT brand's right on the money. I don't really know anything about soccer. I just forget it all. I'm only partially kidding about that. I went back through listener questions notes that I've had from the past and tried to find things that I thought were interesting that I learned along the way. First, Pablo Mastroeni went to the same high school as my mom. Shout out Thunderbird High School in Phoenix. Didn't know that until the other day. This was not related to the TSS research. But there's a fun fact that matters to no one but me and really doesn't even matter to me. Other
Did you
things.
say Thunderbird High School?
Yeah,
though? That is
Thunderbird.
an incredible name.
Isn't that
for a
great?
High school.
It's really good. You guys probably have like a Wessex primary school or something like
Yeah,
that.
they don't know
Yours
not
are-
as exciting as that.
Yeah, no, ours are good.
McLaren High. Woo!
I mean, McLaren's at least a cool name. Other things I've learned that are interesting while doing research for TSS. Bruno Fernandes looks exactly like Rami Malek. Manuel Neuer looks exactly like Matt Damon. Harry Maguire looks exactly like Buzz Lightyear. Pretty sure that was from Patreon research. Yaya Toure and Didier Drogba never made it out of the group stage at the World Cup with the Ivory Coast in their 3 tries. That just feels wrong, doesn't it? 06, 2010, 2014. I have a hard time squaring that. 2 of the greatest players ever. Just didn't happen. We talked at one point, not so recently, maybe this would have been last year, about why there wasn't a lot of spending in Spain during the January transfer window. We didn't talk as much about Spain in our transfer show last week. But we did some research on this, and basically I learned, I didn't realize this before, I'm sure Graham already knew it, that La Liga clubs are stricter, or La Liga as a whole is stricter with their financial rules, where clubs have to submit revenue and cost figures to the league, and then La Liga sees if they're reasonable, and then La Liga gives them this like final squad cost limit that is encompassing of player wages, of coaching wages, agent fees, transfer fees, all that kind of stuff. And so they're different based on the team. So you literally can spend different amounts, not just because of what your ownership can spend, but because of what La Liga tells you that you can spend. I didn't realize that before this time last year. My last fun fact, since I've just been vomiting them all over everybody, only one Premier League team has scored 3 first-minute goals over the course of an entire season before. Brentford did it recently. That was Everton. And Brentford did it in back-to-back-to-back games. That's never happened before, hasn't happened since. Shout out Brentford, slightly smaller shout out to Everton. Those are some soccer facts for you.
I like it. Very good indeed. I'll wade in with a couple. Mine are FA Cup related. I learned very recently on our Total Soccer Show Friday quiz that Alan Cork substituted for Laurie Cunningham in the 56th minute of the 1988 FA Cup final, not the 54th as I had ingrained in my head. So I got a real schooling on that one.
Yes, you did.
The other one, FA Cup related, is triangular corner flags. I can't remember when I learned it in research, but it's Crystal Palace have triangular corner flags this season because traditionally only clubs that have won the FA Cup in England are allowed to have triangular corner flags. Otherwise, it's lame old rectangles for you. There you go.
Well said.
That's fun, isn't it?
You learn something every day.
Graham, any fun facts?
So I also did Joe's method of going back through listener questions, and I went all the way back to when I first started this show. So it's stuff
Wow.
that I hadn't even remembered.
How did you all do that? Like,
Notes
I
app.
thought about doing
I
that.
have
and I just
4,000
have, like,
notes
too
on my
many-
notes app, Taylor. That's how I do it.
Google Docs, and then just set the filter, listener questions, and go through.
But like,
and
would it?
type
But like, but there's so many listener questions. I'm sorry for stalling
pick
this,
random
but I'm really
ones.
fascinated because I tried to do that and I was like, what do I like? Interesting facts, like
No,
fun.
I just
like,
read
I don't
my
know.
entire notes. I just went through about like 20 of them until I'd stumbled upon one. So
I don't understand how Graham has so much time and yet does so many things. I need someone to analyze this. I feel like there are 3 Grahams existing simultaneously, and they all do different things, and I want that technology.
You know that Christopher Nolan movie with Christian Bale where is it The Magician?
Limitless.
No, the Magician one.
oh, Prestige.
The Prestige. There's 2 of them.
Graham's got a prestige machine.
Spoiler!
I think it's what it is.
Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad.
The people have had enough time. How old's that film?
There's not 2 of them. There's only one.
Great movie.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
I went back
limitless.
to Euro 2020, which was confusingly played in 2021. And after England beat Ukraine on the way to Giorgio Chiellini beating them in the final, we spoke about how Harry Maguire had more knockout goals in competitions than Cristiano Ronaldo. So I enjoyed relearning that fact because that's kind of
Graham, we're supposed to do true facts. You can't just make things up.
He's got 2. Ronaldo's got 1.
Wow.
So there you go.
Huh.
Yep.
So all that research gave you that one thing?
Yeah. I mean, I also stumbled upon, what was the other one I found? That was baffling. Nemanja Vidic is the only Premier League winner. Oh, what was it again? Nemanja Vidic is the only person to have won the Premier League whose name is made up entirely of Roman numerals. I found that from a 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's gold.
That had been memory hold, so I'm keeping that one.
What about Viv Anderson? Is that not the same technically?
I assume we're only doing last names.
Surname.
I'm
Yeah,
also
surnames,
guessing
yeah.
the
Surnames.
A is there's no. Is there an A
Yeah,
for
it
Roman
doesn't work
numerals?
with Viv
No,
Anderson,
there's not.
but
Just a
Vidic
Viv,
does.
I was
Vidic
thinking.
works. That's so good.
Who else would like to give some facts? Taylor?
Yeah, I don't have as many like good little nuggets as you two do, because I think for me, like a lot of it has been candidly like more recent that I can remember, and a lot of it has been Soccer 101 research because Graham and I have been looking at all of the domestic leagues of teams that have qualified, and that has led to like greater understanding of the political history or the economic history and how that informs the league. So like Iran is really fascinating to me with how many of them are sort of semi-state owned or semi-state controlled, but all of them affiliated with like organizations or governmental agencies. Yugoslavia, like the research for that episode, where we got into like how regional government worked within the Yugoslav Federation, but how that impacted soccer. Soviet bureaucracy in Uzbekistan, another one. Like all of that is stuff that I wasn't really familiar with or had like kind of a very surface level understanding of, but to get more in the weeds on has been really revelatory and interesting. From a more just like specific episode, specific research one, the one that always stands out that I just didn't really think about or know until we were asked the question was like, why is the U.S. women's national team so much stronger when sort of soccer has been played here for as long as it's been? Both the men's and women's programs kind of started taking off around the same time. Why are the women so much better? And the answer is just kind of straight up Title IX, that introducing legislation to promote equality in college sports has a dramatic impact on the sports that are played and the money that goes into them and the successes we have. So thinking about like that and the direct correlation between the passage of Title IX and more women's soccer programs that develop more better players. One last one for me, but Graham, you can go first. Go ahead, Graham.
No, I was just going to say, like, Soccer 101 was also something I was going to mention, because the way that goes is at the start of the episode, there's normally a section on like history and geopolitics, and it will surprise no one to learn that I just clear out and I let Taylor cook, and I learned so much from like last week when we did Croatia.
Yeah,
I learned so much from Taylor just spending 10 minutes on the breakup of Yugoslavia and how certain clubs aligned with certain communities, and it was great. So yeah, I learned things on that episode every single week.
Graham, are you telling me that you didn't spend like half an hour? I like that I was like, how do you have time? And then here I am. You didn't spend half an hour on the Tito Stalin fallout? No, that wasn't a thing for you?
I mean, I did on that episode, and I enjoyed it very much listening to you. What was the other thing we spoke about on that episode? That Croatia in youth development, every player has to play in midfield.
Yes, that's fascinating.
And so that they get more touches of the ball, they're learning like positioning. Like I guess as a midfielder, you have to be aware of more things around you, and then from there they kind of like place you elsewhere on the field. So like Josko Vardiol used to play as a number 10. And so that's why he's like so comfortable in tight spaces and like attacking. So
with Zagreb specifically, right? Dinamo Zagreb, that's their academy.
That's right, yeah.
Focuses on that. Yeah. So all that, like those little wrinkles are always really interesting. And with Soccer 101, how it is just always the case that soccer spreads from like British port workers or the like spreading the game, but then how it gets unique and localized and regionalized, and then how often the World Cup was the opportunity when those regionalized competitions come together and suddenly you have this team doing this that no one else had thought of, and they destroy everybody, and then everybody catches on. And that has obviously happened at a much faster rate, and television and the like makes it way easier for those shifts to happen at a rapid rate and less like individualization, I think, in clubs. But the kind of history and origin of clubs and tactics is a big one. And then the last one that doesn't quite fit, but I'm using it anyway because it's one of the things I always point to when I talk about why I like doing this show, are the little moments that change the way we understand events within the game. So one that always stands out is there's I believe it was Gold Cup, game between the United States and Mexico when Juan Carlos Osorio was in charge, and we realized that like what Mexico started out with in their tactics really quickly changed. Like their entire formation and approach changed rapid fire. And so going back, once we realized that, I think we realized it in like the 25th minute, and going back slowly to realize that it literally happened in the first minute, that from kickoff they boot long, and then everybody moves around into different positions, and it was clearly a designed thing to throw off the U.S. from what they expected Mexico to do. Moments like that, I think, are really fascinating. Identifying the Welsh tactical column at whatever Euros that was, where every set piece they would have like 5 guys in a line, but then they would all break in different ways, and then you could figure out what they were supposed to do based on the hand signaling of the corner taker. Kind of getting that familiarity with teams as you go and learning the wrinkles along the way. And the last one that I always point to is the one where there was the criticism of a Turkish defender in a World Cup for fixing his hair during a set piece. You all might remember this one, but he was alleged to have been like, he was like adjusting his hair as the corner's taken, his man scores, and everybody was sort of like, I can't believe this guy. And it was like an easy narrative doing the rounds. And we went back and watched, and you realize that his teammate, in telling him to mark somebody, pokes him in the eye. And he's not fixing his hair, he's having a hurt poked eye. And so he's doing this, but people thought it was adjusting his hair. But that's why he's not marking his teammate. So, or not marking the person who scores. So moments when you can find just those little spots that like maybe people didn't pick up on, maybe people didn't see, or just were easy to overlook. Celebrations is another one. I love watching how players celebrate, who they celebrate with, how many people go with the assist getter versus the goal scorer. All that stuff I always find really interesting.
Another one that's come to mind during the 7 years that I've done TSS is names of kit retailers like Nike, obviously the Greek goddess of victory, which is I think in Phil Schiller's book Shoe Dog, which is awesome. Adidas, obviously Adi Dassler, the founder of that company. Umbro was the one I found out as well when we were doing some research. Umbro is a portmanteau. So the guys who founded Umbro are Harold and Wallace Humphreys, and the UM is taken from Humphreys, brothers, which is kind of a weird portmanteau, but that's what it is. That's fun, isn't it?
That is really fun.
Yeah.
You've jogged my memory, Ryan, that the Adidas Puma split is also. I think I did a whole 101 episode on that, where you have like half of the city works for one and hates the other, and the other half works for the other and hates the one. How the brothers feuded and maybe had affairs with each other's wives. Both accused the other of being a more ardent Nazi. Not that they weren't both Nazis, but that the other one was way more enthusiastic, according to the other. So that rivalry and split and how long it endured is another fascinating one, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And my favorite non-soccer fact that I've learned in the past 7 years, of course, is that Gary Newman is older than Gary Oldman.
That's good.
Oh, it's so wrong. It's right.
It's great. It's very good. MT Brand, thank you very much indeed for your question. Thank you to everybody who has submitted one. If you would like to do so, you can go to totalsoccershow.com/questions, or if you love us, you can go in our Discord, patreon.com/totalsoccershow. Join us, hang out in there, ask a listener question. Ask Graham about his breakfast, whatever you like. Patreon.com/totalsoccershow. That's our show for today. Taylor Rocco, thank you very much indeed for all your contributions, sir.
Thank you very much indeed for your contribution, sir, my friend. Oh, couldn't do it. It's too much.
Nearly there. Joe Lowry, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Graham Rutherford.
Thanks, Ryan Bailey.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, listener, for joining us on this one. You have yourself a wonderful weekend. We'll be back on the feed next week. But for now, bye.